So this morning I got up, had a shower, had breakfast, Wheatie flakes with bran, with what am I talking about? Sultanas, but always first a glass of water to flush the system. My uncle taught me that, and he was a doctor, so he should know, right?
All right, Mark. Yeah, it's good to be in your conservatory. You wrote an amazing book, and it's The Man Who Was Different. To give a bit of background, how I heard about the book was Jimmy, being my best mate at school, is someone that I've grown up with. Shared the book with me through lockdown because I wrote a short story about an orange, allowing yourself to just express who you are by letting your creative juice out. And Jimmy basically goes, "Oh, you should read this book." Dad wrote a book that was called the Man Who Was Different. Oh, cool. So then he sent me the book, and then I read the book, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's incredible!" That's exactly the message I'm trying to convey in the story as well. So then, yeah, there's a real link there between me wanting to chat with you, and that was obviously 4 years ago. So it's kind of taken us all those years to kind of get to this point to do this. But yeah, I'd love to hear in your words about the book.
All right. Well, I'm unaware of your story, so I'm very intrigued to know what your story's about. So you must share that with me. But I wrote The Man Who Was Different in 1993 because I was very frustrated with my own work life and felt that I was in the wrong place doing the wrong job, and I was kind of beating myself up about it a little bit. So really the writing of the story was for myself, really, to make me feel a little clearer as to what I should be doing. It really helped me kind of refocus, and got myself a new job somewhere else. And yeah, so it was kind of self-fulfilling, really, I suppose. But along the way, it was a good opportunity to kind of reflect about what it is to be yourself and to be the best version of yourself. And I think if you fall short in some way, it's kind of what the film's all about.
Okay, so you wrote this story back in 1993, and it's now 2024, and there's 31 years between then and now. Why do you feel it's the right time now to create the film and to spread it even further?
So I finished the story, and then I felt good, so I just parked. It was just a handwritten version of The Man Who Was Different. Create this short story, fable, if you like. It's got a message about being yourself, really. That's the essential message. Might be 4 years ago now, my ex-working partner asked me if I had a copy of it, and could I create a digital version, which I did. And then he was working with an international airline at the time who were reevaluating their creative strategy, their positioning, if you like. The view was that the story was a perfect fit for that organisation, so they asked me to give some consideration to how I might license it to them. In the end, it didn't happen, but it did give me the opportunity to reevaluate the story. And I was thinking, well, if a big organisation thinks it's got some value, then maybe I should publish it. So I self-published the story, and then I didn't really do an awful lot with it, if I'm honest. I just thought, well, it's quite nice to have a book. Some people bought it, some people shared it, and a good friend of mine who's an ex-teacher bought several copies and started to distribute them amongst various primary schools across the country, and it seemed to generate quite a lot of interest. He said, you need to come and have a look, come into the school and see for yourself, maybe read the story. So I went in, read the story to a few classrooms of children, and we started conversations about what it was, what the story was about, how each of us are different, what it meant for them to be different. And we started conversations about creativity as well. So, in my story, The Man Who's Different's got 3 eyes, 4 legs, the loudest voice in the world, and the strongest arms, and the best eyesight anybody could have. And one little girl said, well, if I was creating a story about my version of the man who's different, or the girl who was different, or I would have my extra eye on the end of my hand, because to see what I wanted to look around corners. And I thought that was brilliant, because it's imagination for you. So this story seems to have captured the imagination of quite a lot of children, and the teachers and various head teachers were giving me a lot of support, saying that this has got some value because it starts conversations about difference and all the things that you need to kick back against, like bullying and peer pressure and all that sort of stuff. And also about respect. The story is also about respecting everybody else's differences, not just making the most of your own talents, abilities. It's about acknowledging that everybody's different and everybody has a place in society, and everybody should have the ability to be confident about that. So I was encouraged. It was kind of in my mind anyway, to create a short film version of it. So I've got a book, or a short story I call it really, rather than a book, but I've got a short animated film version of The Man Who's Different, which I'm out to share publicly. And the aim is to then give the creative resources, the book, the film, and some lesson plans to enable teachers to kind of take the essence of the story and show the story in whatever form in the classroom, and hopefully encourage some participation and the sharing of the ideas as to what it's about. Whilst I never wrote the story in the first place for it to be where it is now, or about to go where it's about to go to, it's quite a nice journey. It's quite nice to reflect that it's got value beyond just me. I'm happy about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's probably cool to hear that story, the way that it's grown and evolved, and where it started to where you are today. We had a really good conversation around people doing things with their hands and not letting technology take over, and allowing you to actually make things and craft things and use your imagination. And with the story and what you've created, how do you see that as an example of helping people to use their creativity?
I think when it comes to creativity, I think if you take a broader view on creativity, and somebody's ability to be able to draw somebody or paint somebody or to make something look good with, using their hands, using creative thought for practical use. So everybody needs to be creative in a world that is constantly changing and evolving. Some of the traditional methods of being creative, as in real creativity, I suppose, when you leave school and you're in the workplace and you're doing any job really, and if something happens to you in that scenario where you have to look for another job, for example, then you have to sometimes be creative as to how you might find another job, or what you might do if that work dries up and there is no work. So what do you do? How do you be creative? How do you solve a problem? So creativity is about solving problems, whether it's or sharing an idea. Yeah, I prefer to think of creativity as in its broader sense, really, I suppose. The end result really depends on what tools you've got to your disposal, really. So, with the advent of artificial intelligence, then there's the ability to create things from nothing. That I have certain views on artificial intelligence. Maybe it's, I prefer to if I'm going to do something, I prefer to use my own wits and capabilities and tools that I've got that I can physically handle and see in front of me. But that's not to say that artificial intelligence doesn't have a role, or I think it probably does have a role, but as long as it doesn't elbow out original human thought and the human's abilities to unlock and solve problems themselves, then I'm okay with it. Yeah, but not as a replacement to what we humans do. All kind of creativity comes from some inner place within yourself first. I don't need a robot to tell me how to write a sentence. I don't need a robot to tell me how to draw something. But some people might find it useful.
It's good bollocks. Like you said there about creativity coming from somewhere within, and I think that's a super cool thing, because AI is one thing, but there's also like the unlimited amounts of content we have available to ourselves these days. So it's easy to get influenced by being able to express that creativity without it being influenced with everything that's going on around. That's something really cool that you said before as well, was about when you went to the school and the girl had like her own interpretation of who she would be in the world that you've created, and it's really awesome that she was able to express that. And like with other people, like how do you feel express that creativity they have within without it getting influenced or like getting lost before they're able to get it out?
Everybody's going to be influenced by something and somebody, and that's a good thing. I think when you're young and you're trying to figure out what the world's all about and what you're going to do within the world, then the best thing to do is to go and experience stuff. So you experience stuff, you talk to people, you share ideas, you share experiences, and then if we're talking about creativity being self-expression, then you come back and you find a place and a burning desire to come up with an idea or to express something that's coming from an inner place within you. Then you come from a point of knowing something, and then really your expression of whatever it is you're doing, whether it's a story or painting or a film or whatever it is, it's yours, and that's a good thing. And I don't think you can create anything without having some experience of something. That's it, I think.
Yeah, you can't create anything without having the experience of anything. Why is it important to be creative? Like what? Yeah, like why is it important to be creative?
I can't speak for anybody else, but I know that I kind of come up with lots of ideas, and some of them are rubbish, and some of them are okay, and some of them might be quite good. I've created or I've produced several books, 6 very different books, and every time I create a book, at the time I think it's a good idea, and when I've finished it I think I'm never going to do it again because I'm done with it. But then something else turns up, so I suppose I kind of view it like it's like an illness in a kind of funny way. I can't help it. It's like an itch that you've just got to keep scratching. Or maybe we're just born to solve problems, to create things. Maybe it's a bit about me jumping up and down and saying, I'm here, what do you think? And sometimes that might feel like it's a bit self-indulgent sometimes. I think sometimes it's about sharing ideas to educate somebody else, or to share it because you just want somebody to love it the way you love it. But either way, it's a good thing. And without creativity, you don't solve problems. And usually if there's a big problem, somebody will solve it, and then everybody will appreciate it probably. So yeah, creativity is great.
What does creativity do for you? Like, how does it make you like feel when you've created something? Like you've created something, like what's the feeling that you get from it?
The best bit about coming up with an idea, an original idea, or an idea that is, if it's from you and it's the first thing that you think of when you're solving a problem or you're coming up with an idea for whatever it is, I think it's like an adrenaline rush, feeling of excitement. You just got to let it out. So if you do a drawing and it suddenly comes to life and it looks like something that it just makes you feel good. Same as creating a little film or writing a story or writing a poem or something like that. It feels right. There comes a moment where you're thinking, yeah, I've done it, that's great. And then actually, cause I think creativity a lot of the time is very disposable. So I think got that adrenaline rush and that feeling of satisfaction. It's almost to put it to one side and leave it alone, and something else will turn up, and then you get excited about that. So it's a kind of continuous journey, continuous search for a bit of excitement, probably.
Yeah, like it'd be awesome to hear about the film project and how people can fund and support, because I think it's super important that people get behind this, and it's something that I'm really passionate about. So where you're going to be showing it, how people can view it, like how people can support.
Okay, so The Man Who Is Different short film the film itself is actually finished now, I think. To fund the film, I set up a crowdfunder, raised enough money to pay for the external costs, the things that I can't do. All the imagery is original, as in mine, but to bring it to life from a static, two-dimensional ink drawing. I engaged a guy called Ben Rustage, who's an animator, so he's made all the drawings move, which is great. I can't do that. I can now edit it. I've done a lot of the art direction. I've also purchased some music tracks. So those costs, Ben's costs, the crowdfunding campaign was successful because we've enabled those costs to be covered. Other than that, everything else has been self-funded, so all my time has been effectively written off, if you like. But the film's finished, so I'll be sharing it publicly, probably on my website, Vimeo channel, YouTube channel. Certainly the main objective really is to share the film in schools and to start conversations about difference, the importance of being yourself. I've read the story in schools already. The film's not been showed in anywhere so far because I think there is an audience there for it. I think there's from the head teachers that I've spoken to, I think there is an appetite for it. For me, if you start some conversations and it reinforces ideas in children's heads that they're all special, they're all important, they've all got value, then that will be a wonderful thing. If it encourages children to be creative themselves, to write their own stories, even better.